What is good, everyone? Welcome to the Exhaust Notes podcast. My name is Nick Ingval. I'm with my guys, Rowett and Todd. Talk about some Formula One. And we're going to start off with some veggies, and we're going to get to the meats.
Anyone hear that? No, it's like a beeping. Shh, there, listen. It's faster now. What? Looks like it's time to invest in a diffuse kit. Arby's, we have the meats.
If that doesn't hook you, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're on the keto diet, in which case you can definitely skip ahead.
How you guys doing?
That's all I ate. Good. That's all I ate on keto was veggies and meats, so I'm familiar. Ready to, get into it.
Let's get into it because
before we get into the meats, let's talk about good old Chuck Leclerc and his new contract, which is kind of like it almost feels like smoke and mirrors kind of with this language and talking points on this, right?
Yeah. I mean, so for full details, they signed Charles Leclerc to a contract extension, but the strange thing was that it wasn't like he signed for an additional 2 years or 1 year or whatever. It was an unspecified time. They just said through or past 2024, which I think he was signing a contract extension with apparently no expiration. Is you're either Lance Stroll or a Ferrari driver, I guess. I saw one really good tweet that I want to shout out. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's an ex Red Bull engineer.
Is that Brake?
No, not Brake. The other guy. He's on a podcast with
Engine Mode 11 or something.
Engine Mode 11. There he is.
Yeah.
He had a really funny tweet. He said, well, if Leclerc's going to be sad, at least he can be sad driving a Ferrari around Monaco. And I was like, man, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. That's ever since we moved to Monterey, Cam and I, our just go-to saying is like, it's pretty not bad. Like at the end of the day, it's pretty not bad. So
you're still in Monterey.
Yeah, he's got I have to say, like, I think pretty much anybody would trade places with him at any moment. So,
except for race days.
Yeah, except for race days, obviously.
Yeah. I'll add that cape. Yeah.
Anybody in a Red Bull, but anybody in a Mercedes too. Anybody in a McLaren. Okay, well, McLaren, like.
Sometimes
anybody in Haas would trade him seats at least, like that.
Or still just Kick Sauber Steak F1 team.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but it's weird to have an unspecified contract. I don't know. Like, there was an analysis piece that Lawrence Barretto wrote that's like why a less rigid deal makes sense, but then they doesn't even talk about the deal. We don't know if it's rigid or not, or if he's got all these outs and Ferrari has all these outs. Like,
here's my hypothesis: there is no deal. They're just doing this.
It has been made. Watch, he comes on Twitter tomorrow. I've been made aware that without my agreement, pulls an Oscar Piastri to Alpine. Oh my god!
Could you imagine?
The thing about this is, I think, like you guys, I don't believe any contract is worth its weight in Formula One because there are always these exit clauses. And I've always been quick to say the driver that would, in my mind, benefit from the greatest scene change would be Charles Leclerc, but it's never going to happen. And there's a strange serenity that comes with it. And maybe, who knows, this is the thing that he's going to use to have his best season ever, which would be, what, second in the driver standings? Or what? How high has Charles Leclerc gotten in the driver standing? Because I would assume it has to have been in the last 2 to 3 years.
It was definitely in the last 2 years, and it was either P2 or P3. I mean, didn't he lose out to Checo by a point at the end or something?
Yeah. I mean, technically, he's tied for first now, right? Max hasn't won a race yet, so.
He's tied for first until the first
and he's
qualifier.
Beat him with the all-important tiebreaker of alphabetical order.
Exactly.
Last time I checked, L comes before V.
It is kind of interesting, though, because I know we've had this conversation a little bit because Rowett's had his point about, like, where does Leclerc go? I just don't think there's a place for Leclerc anywhere else. That sounds weird to say, because to your point, Formula One contracts are like as good as like, feathers blowing in the wind as far as like stability, right? Like
They're as good as crypto, Arby's. Oh wait, we can't call them that anymore. Well, anyway, hold on to your hats for that segment, ladies and germs.
The meats come. For clarity, he beat Sergio Perez by 3 points in 2022.
For P2.
He was actually fifth last year. He got P2 2022. So that's his peak right now. The thing that I will say that I don't think that we've seen his peak yet. We all know he's a talented driver. He's super quick, especially in qualifying. He can let the pressure get to him in races. Think France 2022 when he just slid into a wall for no reason. Like, he does crumble under the pressure a lot, but I think in the right environment, he might succeed better if they give him the car. We know the struggles of the Ferrari last 2 years, but, and this is kind of credit to Fred Vasseur, I think this is actually the first year that we're going to see his real influence on the team, because he took over last year for Mattia Binotto, Harry Potter. I think we'll actually see his real influence for the first year this year, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because you have to take year one or year zero, if we want to call it that, and basically dust away the cobwebs of the previous era. And as we know, Matteo Binotto, because he is the magical one, there were a lot of cobwebs because there was a lot of smoke and mirrors that went along with him leading Ferrari to probably what was simultaneously their most entertaining, most impressive, and most disappointing year, which was the 2 years ago race, because I think they kind of regressed to the mean in terms of expectations last year. Now, that being said, I do think Charles Leclerc, much the same way that the media has characterized him as being the prodigal son of Ferrari, there is one spot I could see him thrive really well, and that would be the eventual Lewis Hamilton replacement at Mercedes.
Yeah. See, I kind of agree with Nick. He has the nickname of the prodigal son of Monaco. Like, he is Monegasque.
But is there a similar, what feels like a biological connection from Monaco to Ferrari? Because I don't think that. Like, he can be the prodigal son of Monaco at any of the teams. Like, but there's no added cachet of being there from Ferrari perspective, other than the fact that his godfather was scheduled to be a Ferrari driver, and I don't think he ever made it, if I remember my bit of Charles Leclerc mythology.
I mean, like, he definitely has a Ferrari connection, has had it for a long time. The reason I think that there is kind of like this defunct tie, if the general public thinks of F1, they think of two things. They think of Monaco as the premier race of Formula One because of the spectacle, and they think of Ferrari because Ferrari is the longest running constructor, and they they boast about being being Formula One, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is essentially Charles Leclerc was created by the gods of central casting when it came to building the ultimate Formula One driver, because he checks both those boxes really easily, and it would make sense to, lack of a better term, adhere to traditional norms by having him stay in Ferrari now until forever, because that seems like the cruelest, most tortuous punishment a man can have.
Well, so just to play devil's advocate to that, how long, like, what's the worst Ferrari has ever finished? And how long have they ever not been near the top? Because I get that, like, Lewis won for his streak, Max is on his streak, Seb before that. But, like, the streakiness of Formula One, like, Ferrari's always in that top 2-3 conversation, in my opinion, right?
They're one of the big three. They've always been talked about that way, right?
And even when, like, we don't feel they're competent on track or in the pits or, strategy-wise, they're still right there the whole season somehow, right? Like, we've talked about it at length, like, how we think, like, they should be completely gone because they've failed so many times. Yet you look and it's like, well, Sainz is, like, silently, finished fourth and third for the last 8 races consistently. That's the thing about that's really interesting. I know that Formula One drivers don't really think about these things long term, but I think that someone like Charles Leclerc and Ferrari are even if it takes them 3, 4, 5 more years to win, the potential for them to win together with him being like a committed driver to the team and Ferrari's just like, overall legacy would be such a powerful, like long-term, people would talk about that they're going to talk about that longer than they'll talk about a lot of things that Max and Lewis and Seb have done, because it's just kind of the way you think of Formula One as a default,
The
like
Tifosi will, right?
yeah, but maybe like that's an old way of thinking. Maybe like, like I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking that way because I don't know. The first place, I mean, I've got Monaco on the wall. Like that's the first place I think about with Formula One. Absolutely has not been the best race in Formula One for 2 decades at least, but it's still the place that I think of when I think of Formula One. It's like if I think of, what do I want to do? Go to a Monaco race, like, kind of to your point about the tweet, drive a Ferrari around Monaco. I don't know. Pretty not bad. Pretty not bad.
Formula One at its essence is a luxury sport, and to your point, there's no race that captivates that better than Monaco. So I totally get where that's coming from, and like I said, I'm a nouveau riche fan of Formula One compared to you two old money fat cats, but I am probably not spinning with Monaco the way I should. But give it time, and maybe I will find a beauty in its inefficiency and its like historic oldness. But I'm really interested to see what he does next year, because I think for me personally, he's going to be the single most interesting person to watch on the grid next year, because he is now once again lumbered with what I consider to be another albatross in terms of expectations and now contract, however vague and mysterious it may be.
I think that he's also, the reason why I don't think he fits with other teams is because I think it takes longer for drivers to be able to influence teams at this point. Like, I think if you look at like historical stuff with drivers, like the Schumachers, the Sennas, the Prosts, like all these, legacy, like best of GOAT conversation drivers, they became very influential on the team at like day one or year 1 or year 2, very early in their journeys, right? I think that Ferrari is a harder egg to crack in that sense, or whatever that saying is, because look at how they've like forced the last few years. I mean, even beyond the last few years, probably. I wasn't paying attention as closely 10 to 12 years ago, but I feel like the team itself has been very stuck in their ways. And I think that with Leclerc sticking with them, coming up, starting with them, sticking with them, he's going to have way more influence on that team than any other driver. And I think that also with Fred Vasseur kind of like on the other side of the business, getting things aligned is putting them in a position where, okay, now we have 2 people we actually trust that are essentially making decisions, making the calls, where like Ferrari just hasn't had that, right? Like, and nothing against Carlos Sainz. Like, Carlos Sainz should absolutely be way more respected by Ferrari, but let's be honest, he's going to go race for Audi. His dad just won Dakar. He's going to go race for Audi once Audi's in. Like, there's just no way that doesn't happen, in my opinion.
Which car did his dad win?
What's that?
Which car did his dad win?
No, the Dakar rally. Oh man,
that's the air being let out of Carlos Sainz's tires, because we all know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Not to change gears, but it's funny how it almost feels like F1 Twitter is like willing that to happen. Like, I haven't seen it in like any real, like official, like journalistic way. Like,
wait, the Audi thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't. So I haven't seen Twitter. It. Okay, fair enough. I'm still unfortunately using.
Yeah.
No, he's denied it every opportunity. Like, he's had,
but it feels like it's just coming from the paddock. Like, people are saying like, "Oh, he's gonna drive for Audi. He's gonna drive for Audi." It's not like, the race or one of these other big kind of Formula One sites
Stalwarts.
that are like posting like, oh, there's been talks or ties or rumors. It just feels like everybody's kind of like, yeah, let's see that happen. Almost like trying to press it to happen.
I think that's natural, man. The universe will do that for you on its own, right? Like we all want to see Bronny play with LeBron in LA. Like I'm not a Laker fan. I'm a Laker hater, but I still want to see Bronny play with LeBron.
But I also think
coming up in Formula One, even where did you think Mick Schumacher was going to race? Yeah. Everybody hoped that he would get into a Ferrari, right? Like there's no question that we all wanted to see that.
He got into a black, white, and gray, and with a hint of red Ferrari that was just called a Haas.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do you mean like when he was driving for Team Russia?
Allegedly.
There was still a Ferrari engine in the back.
Yep.
Allegedly.
The Axis powers.
Yes. No, but I mean, it's funny you mentioned the rest of the paddock and the media wishing Carlos Sainz going to a different team because maybe they feel bad for him. Because in my mind, Ferrari would benefit more if they channeled their inner Carlos Sainz and not their inner Chuck Leclerc. Because we've said this, or at least I've said this probably every episode at least 5 times. So if you have a bingo card, put the space now. Carlos Sainz's superpowers, he just puts his head down and drives, and he's no nonsense, no fuss. He'll just kind of get through it. He'll get you that 3rd to 4th. And while Leclerc may have a quote-unquote higher ceiling, which I don't see, Sainz has the higher floor, and that tends to bode well for that team. And I think if you asked Fred Vasseur, dipped in a gallon of truth serum, who his favorite or more preferred driver is, I would not be surprised if he says Carlos, because there's just a certain drama-free quality that Carlos has that Chuck will never have because of the pedigree, because of all these other weighted expectations we've bequeathed to him ever since he's joined the grid.
For once, I don't think that's an insanely hot take. Like, I completely agree with you.
I wasn't trying for it to be an insanely hot take. I mean, give me time.
No, but sometimes you get on a roll and you just, by the end of the speech, you never know where you are.
Oh, I appreciate
that. You're going to say
I mean,
Bruno Senna better than Ayrton someday.
Yes. Hey, while I've got you here, John David Washington will be a better actor than his dad, Denzel. There you go. There's my hot take for the episode. Really like Ballers and Tenet.
Tenet was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
We're off topic.
We tend to be.
Where the hell were we?
We were talking about
Chuck's contract and then signs to Audi. It sounds weird, but like I'm almost already over this season. Like I have high hopes for McLaren to be actually like the general public is now out of like 160,000 poll results. They think McLaren's going to be the most likely to challenge Red Bull. I don't think anybody's challenging Red Bull, but I'll be happy with a P2 in the constructors in my papaya if that happens this year.
That's a hot take as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, Jensen Button said it's Mercedes that's going to challenge, so.
Every British journalist that's paid by F1 TV or Sky thinks Mercedes is going to be there. And they have a right to say that, but they got to show us something. Maybe we'll come with like a 3/4 pod design at preseason this year and be like, oh, we cracked the code. And then, nope. I don't know.
Based on their pod design, our podcasting duration will be directly related to that. So if they come up with a 3/4 pod, every podcast will end abruptly at 3/4 of when it actually finishes recording. And I can make that promise to you, listener, because it's not happening.
Tune in next episode to see if Todd actually gives a shit about Formula One this season.
No, that's not what my point was. I'm really excited to see what another true
3/4 cut.
True, like, yes. What another true constructor in Formula One will do. Audi's got big money. The VAG is serious about Formula One. That's Volkswagen Automotive Group before anyone has any qualms about how I speak.
Save this conversation before it dries up. Or
but
the money.
I'm really excited for 2026, I guess.
Yeah, but then
is it 25? Now I'm second guessing myself. I don't know if Audi's taking over team name or the team until 25 or 26. I think it's probably 26 with the new regs. Makes most sense.
I thought it was 26, but they can start branding the team in 25. And if we're wrong, Iron Trev will let us know, and we can do one of our many.
Shout out Iron Trev. I love getting. This is another tangent, but I get a text almost every podcast from either Aaron or Trevor saying, what is it?
Father urges.
Father urges. Okay, it'll probably happen then.
So now Pops is in the same corner with Audi. Anyway, sorry. You get a text
For context, Nick was just showing us his phone screen with an article of Carlos Sainz Sr. urging his son to go to Audi.
Yeah.
As we all just went silent there.
Always.
The fuck was I going to say?
It's okay.
Aaron and Trevor text you.
Yes, Aaron they text me every episode with their notes on the rebuttal to whatever bullshit we spout off during the podcast. I love it.
Here's the thing, Aaron and Trev, we're going to tell you what to do. Start your own podcast. Be a complete rebuttal. Be the ether to our Jay-Z song. And just fact check us every single time that you can. Because who knows? But my whole thing with Audi is...
Wait, we've got to encourage the silencer to the Exhaust Notes podcast. Should be their name. They should just be called the Silencers or the Mufflers, yeah. We'll run it. We'll just run it back to back so people can listen to them argue back.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. We need an around the horn or PTI, even though I think we have more around the horn energy. But what I will say this, we know Audi's coming. We know that they have truckloads of money. What will let me know how serious their intentions are is if we all believe what's happening and we think it's going to happen, which is Carlos Sainz is going to be their driver, who's their number 2? Because that will tell me a lot about what their aspirations are.
Mick Schumacher.
You think Schumacher?
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
To me, yeah, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I just hadn't thought of that. Go ahead.
I feel I know. I have a feeling, and F it, I'm just going to debut one of my hot takes today, and then we can refine it when we have the actual hot takes episode. I think half of the big 3 grid will be reversed, or will be completely replaced next year, and I think George Russell's about to join Audi alongside Mr. Sainz.
I don't think so. I don't think because they know they're losing Lewis.
Are they though? Like he just signed another 2-3 year contract. He's not gonna. Oh.
I feel like he's about to pull an Alonso. Like anything you can do, I can do better.
Which would be the pettiest move.
It would really be Alonso-like to try to be out petty Alonso. But race into his 40s. I agree with that. He's 39 now. I don't think he's done in the next 2-3 years, but he is done at some point. And George is to Mercedes as Sainz is to Ferrari right now. He's a head down, put in the work, get a quiet before every race.
He's got a little bit more, what would you say, spice in his tea? Is that a British metaphor? If not, we'll make it one.
He's definitely not spicy. He's a hall monitor.
But he's the most annoying hall monitor. Like, he's obnoxious in terms of how good of a hall monitor is he. I mean, there's a reason why he's the president or whatever. But it goes to this. If we think Lewis dog walks him like Lewis dog walked him last year, like, why should I retain George Russell then? Is it just the fact that there's nobody else on the grid that represents that potential? And I get that potential is the sexiest thing to an athlete, but eventually he's going to have to put Lewis away. Otherwise, in my mind, his career will never be what we expect it to be. Like, he has always been spoken about in this hushed tone of he's next. He's the next big thing. He's going to take down the world. He's a future world champion. And the way that his career seemingly is panning out right now, he just looks like Charles Leclerc with a British accent, which is he's never going to get there. He has these emotional outbursts. And yes, he's a nice guy, but I don't see the ruthless killer I've always been trained to think about when I think about George Russell.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, going back to the Audi side of that, I think it has to be Alex Albon. Like, he's the most potential in the worst place. You know, like, he obviously is not going to get a seat at Red Bull again. He's not going to get a receipt. He's not going to get a receipt. He's not going to get a seat in a McLaren or in a Mercedes. But I think he easily stands out from the bottom half of the drivers on the grid right now as, like, this guy could do much better in a better car.
But could he? Because we have the Red Bull. He was in, the second fastest car at the time in the Red Bull, and he crumbled under the pressure more often than not.
Yeah, but
I agree with you.
Wasn't he 19 or something? I mean,
he was young,
23.
sure.
I thought.
23 now, right?
Oh, is he 20? Okay, but let's say he's 19 then. That being said, I think of him the same way I am forced to think about George Russell, which is like he's this great driver because I maintain
Oh, you're right.
he's
He's
had two of the
27.
most. He's 27, so he was 23 when he
Yeah.
was on Red Bull. Okay, cool. At the same time, I think he's done two of the most impressive things I've seen anyone on the grid do, which is that immortal, was it even a one stop that he had with Williams? Remember? No, he
Yeah.
had no pit
Oh,
stop.
the last lap pit stop in Australia.
Yeah, like that was impressive. He's consistently gotten more points out of that car than anybody that I think. And that speaks to him. And dare I say it, he may be a top 8 driver in the world if we don't look at the actual metric of success, which is points scored by a driver. Because I think that's more attributing to the car, not necessarily the driver.
I agree with you. I think he's in the top half, if not higher, of driver talent in Formula One. I just, I don't, because of what happened in Red Bull, I don't know if he can handle the big team. And
I think he can, just because of what he went through in Red Bull. And I think more often than not, people coming out of the Red Bull program are often cast in a sympathetic light whenever they are in the meat of it or when they've left it. And I do think that his ability to handle it the best, and granted that's like being the shortest midget or I don't know where the hell I was going with that analogy, please don't cancel me. But at the same time, very tangential. We're also in preseason as well, listeners, so I'm sure the takes will get tightened up, as will my vernacular and my diction. But at the same time, like, he is going to once again probably be the most impressive driver not in the top 3 teams.
Yeah, but it's easy to, when you absolutely stomp a mud hole in your teammate by winning the
I don't even remember who his teammate is. Maybe it's some private dude. I don't know. The fact that he was able to get that result in a comparable car to George Russell, ironically, the guy that I keep comparing him to this year, what was more impressive? Any George Russell season in the Williams car, or what Alex Albon did last year?
I mean, I go
That's really
Albon
hard.
in that, but
Yep. Anyway, enough of my Alex Albon soapbox. If he joins Audi, then I have a new team of choice, which will be the Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, Audi-led squad in 2026.
Germans do it better.
Certain
all right.
things.
Shifting gears once again.
Yes.
Let's talk about the meets. I don't even know how to say it, so I'm gonna let Todd officially announce.
You gonna put me on the spot?
Yeah.
Okay. AlphaTauri, moment of silence, with their overpriced clothes and strange modeling shoots with Yuki Tsunoda, have officially changed their name to Visa Cash App RB Formula One team. And it was speculated, I think we talked about it last week, that it was going to be the Racing Bulls, kind of tying them into Red Bull a little bit, going back to the Toro Rosso, which literally meant Red Bull in Italian previously. The RB does not stand for Racing Bulls or Red Bull. It is strictly RB. So it's official that this is the worst team name in F1 history. And it was a very short reign for Kick. The fuck was it called?
Sauber Kicks.
No, Steak, Sauber, Kick F1 team or something of that order. I don't know, mix and match. But they had officially the worst team name in F1 history for, I don't know, a month. And
then Visa said, "Hold my rich energy drink."
Yeah. I mean, sponsors have always played a part in team names, and I'm sure every F1. I know the race went hard on this team name thing, but sponsors have always played a part in Formula One. It's a rich man sport. You got to pay the bills. I get that. All the big teams have them. I think what Mercedes is Ineos, Mercedes AMG F1 team or something like that.
Patronus, like the
Patronus,
big Harry
there you
Potter.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patronus. But this, at least they have an identity at the end of the day. Mercedes has Mercedes. Ferrari has Ferrari. Stake somehow has Sauber, which has a history in Formula One. They have somehow went from Minardi to Red Bull Junior to fancy Red Bull Junior with great liveries, charismatic drivers, to Arby's. We have the meats. Like,
Couple things.
Yeah.
Future episode. Contrast. Or doppelganger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I
We
feel
should
like
definitely do that.
Yep,
I'm gonna actually like beep that out just so we don't give it away. But that'll be an excellent episode. Yeah.
Thank you. Every now and then, blind squirrel, not. But this may be the high point of their season, as absurd as that sounds. Like, what are we supposed to make of this? I mean, not only that, like, you have arguably two of the most charismatic drivers on the grid as a part of that team, and even they are going to get overshadowed by this bumblefuck of a name.
Yeah. I just think, like, how do announcers refer to the team? Like, we're not going to call them. I mean, I don't know.
Visa Cash App RB.
Or we call them the Cash App Boys with a Z. And like,
I think they're going to call them RB.
Gang.
They're gang.
On God.
On God.
No cap.
We're all wearing caps.
Sure are.
I mean, so I always thought it was odd that they didn't connect the two teams, right? Like, yeah, they did the Toro Rosso thing, and it was like we all know it's the junior team. AlphaTauri still kind of has it. Like, I would have just called like the main team the Red Bull team, and like the other team the Blue Bulls team or something. But then it would have turned into Blue Balls, and it would have turned into a whole thing
so
of like
good.
It would have been great, but like they would have also never lived it down. So
they're going to be called the RB team, just because I think we inherently, as fans, as broadcasters, as whatever, are going to be lazy, and that just makes the most sense.
See, but internally,
that's confusing, right?
I left that
That's
team
why
out.
I
You know,
enjoy
everybody refers to Red Bull RB; they're synonymous. Like
Are
when
they
we,
though? I've never heard.
Yeah,
Red Bull
no.
be okay.
When we type it in the Discord, what do we type? If we're not going to type out Red Bull, we just type out RB. Everybody knows. We type out AT for AlphaTauri.
Well, and they shorten the cars, right? RB19, RB20, like those are the car names, right? So, yeah.
I think they should still do it because this is the only way that RB team will win a race this decade.
Wait, which RB?
Exactly. That's my point.
The
I
thing
just hope they have curly fries.
Yeah.
And that sauce, God, RB sauce so good. They're internally known. Internally, they're calling themselves V Carb. V hyphen carb.
So going back to our keto shout out, that means they're not long for this world.
Oh man,
I feel like that's the. I somehow feel like that's the name that the announcers, commentators, etc., are going to adopt.
Whatever Yuki or Danny Rick says, that's what they're going to go by. Like that first press conference where they're going to be up in front of, let's say, 1,000 people and like, guys, how does it feel to be a part of a new era of racing? And Daniel Ricciardo's going to BS his way through gee shucks, guys, and I can't do Australian accent. I'm just happy to be a fan of whatever pet name he comes up with, and then that's how they're going to be christened for the rest of their existence or until a new sponsor enters the ring.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was just hilarious to see the whole rollout. Like, I tried to like repost as much of it as I could on the Instagram account, but it was hilarious to see them like roll it out and then take it back and then come back and like then like I came back to it and it was deleted and it's like, okay, well now it's back, but there's nothing there. And then like randomly the AlphaTauri clothing account is like, thanks to the AlphaTauri F1 account for all the years. And like if you tap the AlphaTauri F1 account, that account is no longer because it's now Visa blue ball, cash wrap, whatever. Like,
I'm gonna call it. No, I'm gonna call it the Mastercard Zelle Carl's Jr.
There's no good way to put it. Like,
yeah,
Nick, you've been in marketing in several companies. From a marketing perspective, I'd love to get
Yes.
Yoltz's
well,
input on this. It's terrible. It has no. The only reason it's burned in your brain is because of how horrible it is, not because it's catchy or fun or intriguing or anything that you would associate to marketing, right?
right. So I have to answer that in two ways. First, for the average listener, the fans, yes, it's terrible. But for anyone who's interested in sponsoring the podcast, feel free to throw out Capital One, Zell, Exhaust Notes, FM podcasts for Formula One fans. We're open to a lot of those types of naming conventions. Don't listen to Todd right now.
The Exhaust Notes podcast
directly.
brought to you by Blue Chew.
Here's the thing.
100% in.
When I had my college radio station, I was called the Lexus Nike Corporate Hour because I drove a Lexus and had an internship at Nike. What would be the douchiest thing
That's
to name
amazing.
my radio show? So it was the Lexus Nike Corporate Hour. And some hippy-dippy professor was like, I cannot listen to the spirit of college radio, where some Yahoo has decided to name his show that, no matter how unironic he thinks it is. I was like, yep, that's exactly who I'm going for. So you can now refer to me as Lexus Nike Road Malhotra, and I'll be okay with that.
Isn't it funny? This is a little bit of a tangent, but college professors, right? God, I love them. But they have
They're the ones
those
that
moments,
truly
right?
never give up. Yeah, they never grew up.
Right? And then, like, not all of them, though, because I've met plenty that are incredible, that have changed many people's lives by just being good human beings. But there's those few that are, like, just stuck in their ways. So I don't have a story directly, but my brother was in art school years ago.
Mega Drive.
And basically he's like, I'm gonna design cars, I'm gonna design bikes, I'm gonna draw cars and bikes and transportation. Like, this is where I'm headed, right? He now designs, for Giro and the bike world, and very, very deep into cycling right now. So in college, his professor basically was like, I can't remember what class it was, but he was basically like a huge project, and he was told, like, it couldn't be about cars. It had to be more of a human experience or something like that, right? My brother pulled the ultimate fuck you by drawing himself staring at a picture of a Porsche on the wall in an art gallery. So the human experience was him looking at a painting of a Porsche on the wall, and it was this massive, like, 4 foot by 4 foot like watercolor painting. It was amazing. But shout out to all those professors that refused to
succumb to the man and his influence.
Yeah.
And speaking about succumbing to the man or the influence, like, maybe they're the marketing geniuses, because we are talking about this. And if we wouldn't talk about this, I don't think we'd talk at all about Red Bull, or what were they called previously? AlphaTauri. Like, maybe that's the marketing genius in all of this, is by coming up with such an absurd name, it can't help but get us to talk about it, because we're not going to talk about them any other way. Sorry,
it's short-lived, though, right? Like, I feel like if you're really thinking long term, it's like, it has to be something where, like the Petronas Mercedes AMG Formula One team, right? Like, we all know that Petronas is on the front of that without saying it, and it's stuck, right? The problem with this, to me, is not only the branding that they created and all of the stuff that they messed up on the rollout of it, but, like, the Visa Cash App to a non-existent team doesn't help us remember. Like, 5 years from now, like right now, this season, they're going to get a bunch of buzz, right? They'll get 3 months of people just shit talking the name, and then the season will roll on, and eventually people will either just refer to the team as the Visa Cash App team or whatever. But like 5 or 10 years from now, we're not going to associate Visa Cash App with this team at all, which is going to be terrible for the sport and for that team, whatever they become in the future.
Like, what's the best case scenario for them? That we call them the Force India of their time, where it's like they were memorable. but
But
ultimately
they had the identity of that's exactly to Nick's point. Force India had the identity of Force India, right? And then the sponsors that were attached to that team.
Yeah.
right.
RB doesn't have any identity. So it's
Yeah.
even more forgettable because there's nothing, those sponsors can't attach to any sort of team identity in any way, really. Like RB doesn't stand for anything. It doesn't stand for Racing Bulls. It doesn't stand for Red Bull. It's just RB.
I wouldn't be surprised if they try to come up with something for the RB throughout the season, right? Like that is like a miss to me. Like, I mean, even if they were like,
maybe that,
even if they were like, oh, we're going to move completely away from the RB and the Red Bull thing, and we're just going to be like, we're the Visa Cash App Marauders. Like, at least that's a way that people can refer to the team and remember the connection to the specific team.
here's $1 billion idea for them. Every race, come up with a new acronym for RB. It has to be regional. It has to incorporate X amount of some sort of racing footprint, but like that's how you do it.
That would be cool.
No,
That's too creative for whoever came up with this team name.
That's fair.
I mean, as someone who works as a creative in a creative space with a bunch of creative people, it's really difficult to think about, you know, being creative without a big pile of money next to you and being creative with a big pile of money next to you. So I understand.
But
Todd, just think, you could be creative driving a Ferrari around Monaco, or you can be creative driving a Honda Civic around the Bay Area. What do you want to do?
Not bad. Not bad.
As long as he gets to wear that New York Rangers hat.
Yep. Yeah. Wear that in the paddock. No, I just whoever they paid to come up with the marketing for this should be absolutely fired. From like you said, the rollout, the back steps, the non-name, everything. It's the one silver lining to this whole thing is their color scheme. I think would look good on the livery because it's that kind of goes back to the Toro Rosso kind of royal blue, with white, and then the Cash App like green highlights. I think it'll look good on the livery. It's gonna look stupid with the sponsors, but hopefully the livery's cool.
Something like this. Let's go with the Abalone LeBron James blue-green hodgepodge.
It's a great shoe.
How come Nike doesn't sponsor a Formula One team?
Well, if rumors are to be believed, we're about to see them enter the grid in the next year, but I'll buy it when I see it.
Yeah.
And I think Puma's got that thing in a chokehold, to say the least.
It's the one thing they did right.
Yeah. I mean, K-Swiss with McLaren was pretty good too.
But I feel like the shoes were lackluster.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think all Formula One sneakers are... I mean, I say this, if you have been in the Discord or listen to Sneaker History, you know that I'm obsessed with all racing shoes and have literally dozens of dumb racing shoes. But I feel like it's a missed opportunity. Like, we saw it in the 90s and everything that's come out in the last few years. Like, there's been some interesting things, but it's been like one hit wonder where like it didn't sustain a season, or it popped up and then we forgot about it and just never really held any ground. And the K-Swiss thing, to me, I think they chose interesting shoes, but I think that not having the connection on the team or, you know, someplace visible, you know, that's a huge miss. But anyway, that's a rabbit hole we can go down in another episode because it's a very deep one.
And we do enjoy our rabbit holes.
The rollout, I was going to go back. The rollout of that, I would not be surprised if it comes out that like there was just complete miscommunication or some weird stuff happened. Like maybe there was back and forth with the team names or something like that, where, you know, it was just even AlphaTauri, even RB Junior Melt, like would be capable of doing a better job than how it was rolled out. And I'm sure, like, that's not like picking on anybody that rolled it out or was as a part of that team. I just think somebody fumbled it and like nobody realized it.
I will pick on them. Please. It's what Todd does best. I will give
them a wedgie if I ever see them.
I'm going to give them a squirrely. which is a wet willy and a swirly at the same time. And then I'm gonna get upset because I have toilet water on my hands. So I'm gonna.
Have you tormented or tortured friends, loved ones, siblings, or relatives? I mean, I feel like that's a very deep cut for.
Oh, I'm as a classic one-upper. I'm gonna tell this story now. So in high school, I was friends with a young man who decided he was gonna power rank all of his friends, and he would let us know every week, like where we were in the top 10. And then, because we were all high school boys, we turned it into a game, which was how high can we get on that power ranking list? And then, as soon as we hit number one, how quickly can we fall off the list by doing mean things to him? So, there were incidences where people would shake him while he was using the urinal, so it looked like he peed his pants. There were other times where we told every single girl that he had a crush with that he was ready to fudge, and he had a 12-inch monster just with their name on it. And there are some other stories that if you subscribe to our Patreon, I will gladly tell you because as much as I like being the villain, there's some truly heinous shit we did to him. And I'm going to use this opportunity to apologize to you, Philip Motville, because I definitely don't want a Steve
Sammy
Buscemi.
name dropped.
I don't want a Steve Buscemi, Billy Madison situation where if he ever finds this podcast and he hears me talk about this and then I'm offering my mea culpa now, I can see him cross my name off the list of people he was going to kill and then put lipstick on himself, just like Steve Buscemi did in Billy Madison.
So, how about Lance Stroll?
What's he done?
Do
Speaking
you
of
think
bullies,
Alonso actually bullies him behind the scenes? I feel like he does.
Talk about this article because I haven't read it, and I purposely haven't read it because I want to hear it directly from you two. Because I was elected to lead, not to read. So tell me about this article.
I didn't get through the whole thing. I just saw the headline and was like, "Wow, this is like Todd's dream article right here." We're getting the
To shit on.
behind the scenes
Yes.
story of Alonso's relationship with Stroll. And what was it? What's the line is very unique or something like that?
Oh God, what the hell was it? I want to direct
What
quote it here.
relationship has Fernando Alonso had with a teammate which can't be euphemized to? And I made up a word, which was euphemism and like euphemized to. They have a very unique relationship.
It was very unique, yes.
Yes, of course it was, because that means he was an asshole to the person, and the other person just let him get away with it.
Very unique. AKA, I used to be friends with him when his dad ran the team.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes this season. I mean, he still does, but I just want to know how much he got paid to do this interview and do this article, because all he did was blow smoke up Lance Stroll's ass. Like, granted, we know Stroll had a pretty rough year from being hurt in the preseason. I think he
But
missed
he
preseason.
still was a top 10 racer, was he not? If I remember the constructor standings, didn't he get top 10?
You're gonna make me check again.
Are they changing the name to the Wells Fargo Aston Martin F1 team? Or I mean,
but I think whenever
maybe there is a lot of money behind this. I don't know. Maybe
Bank of Canada.
Yeah, there you go.
The Bank of Strolovich.
First Canada Credit Union.
Where was he? He got P10.
Yeah, that's
with 74 points,
which was his highest performance he's ever had as a driver. So, for as much as we want to shit on him, and I don't condone bullying unless it's done by Todd Yates, he had a very successful year.
But did he?
I am being very simple, and I'm being very much a layman, and I'm going to say, yeah, he finished top 10.
Okay, so he finished top 10 in what started the season as the second fastest car, probably averaged out to be the fifth fastest car.
No, Todd, don't go into the details. His
teammate finished in P4 with 206 points. He finished in P10 with 74 points. I think if you put any other competent driver, even Ratatouille or PG...
Pierre, yeah, are you with me?
They would have been at least a couple spots higher. Like, granted, the wreck set him back. He had to take a couple races off when he broke his wrist. Oh wait, no, that was Danny Rick.
No, he didn't take a single race because
he didn't take a race off, but his wrist was still jacked up. Whatever.
There was a touching montage of medical autopsies, medical X-rays, and rehabs that he had right before. I think it may have been set to a Coldplay soundtrack. It was really tastefully done.
Fix you? Fix You by Coldplay.
Okay, so before you say anything more, Todd, listeners, I need you to leave a comment on any of the social platforms. If you follow us, Exhaust Notes FM everywhere, or in the Discord. We need next episodes. But did he? Because Todd's "but did he" is going to be a thing for us going forward.
A soundboard?
Because I feel
Yeah,
like
dude.
this is a common occurrence where Rowett and I kind of justify, like, this guy is like top 10 Formula One driver in the world, Todd. But did he? Like, yes, he was number 10. Yes, he got his ass kicked by his teammate, but he's still way better than some of the other people on the grid.
I was gonna say it's eerily similar to the Really that used to be on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update. Like, really?
Yeah, exactly.
I will go down. He's going to finish below top 10. I'm going to hot take.
Oh no, here's my hot take. He's going to be the one remnant holdover into 2025. I think Alonso's switching teams next year.
Oof.
I think if Alonso doesn't get his win, he'll retire.
He's good?
45. Yeah. I think he'll step back, go race Dakar or something.
Why
or IMSA or...
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We have a next season juice box bet already.
Yep.
Alonso retiring. If he gets his win.
Alonso is the oldest F1 driver in history, or no?
Yes. Oh, no, not in history. Oldest driver on the grid currently. I think, was it Graham Hill?
Yeah.
In the 90s. He won a race at like 49 or something crazy.
If he wins a race, he's retiring within the hour.
No,
he might just mic drop.
I think he thinks he's going to win the championship if he actually wins a race.
In the beginning of the season, I would agree with you, but
it's a gateway drug. Winning.
Yeah.
But going back to this whole article, were there any nuggets that explained and explored the unique relationship other than the fact that it's Fernando kissing some Canadian tookies, so that way he remains in good graces when inevitably that team comes to reality this year? Because I don't think they're going to be as good.
No, there wasn't anything in there that I saw other than him saying, like, we have a good relationship. We talk every week. We talk at the factory. We talk at the races. We talk on the phone. So they're pen pals or whatever, gal pals, whatever you want to say.
I'll buy 5 Kimona hats or Kamoa hats if they release the tapes. It's just like a Hillary Clinton situation. I really want to know what those two talk about.
Yeah, how does that conversation go?
Like, I really enjoyed watching you race that one time when I was 15 laps ahead of you and I could see you on the...
When I saw you on the big screen? Hey, nice overtake. That was such a bless your heart moment. Oh, you just overtook for P14. Bless your heart.
I mean, that was actually probably one of my favorite moments, though, because who else is going to be watching the... Yeah, like, who else is going to do that? Like, only Alonso pulls that off, in my opinion.
It was the car equivalent of tussling his hair and telling him if he continues to be a good boy, he'll take him out to ice cream this weekend.
And I think, there's not much... I would say there's not much meat to this story. It actually does feel a little bit kind of... a little cliffhangery in a way.
Placement.
Like
what?
kind of feels like Leclerc signed a new contract without any actual information behind that statement. So, but it is really interesting because, like, I think the surprise to me is like actually hearing that they talk regularly. Like, if that's true, I mean, all these guys do talk regularly, right? But like, it makes me wonder if Alonso is just positioning himself to be a part of the team beyond racing, right? Like, obviously Stroll's not going anywhere. I don't think, even with dad out, I think he's still like a part of the team for the next few years, in my opinion. Like, he's probably... Well,
he didn't sell, for clarification, he sold his interest in the car side of Aston Martin.
Not the auto racing part.
Oh,
not the F1
gotcha.
team.
Okay. So he's still going to be there. Well, he's going to be there Lance will be there for many, many years then. So
I can't wait for them to be rebranded to the Lance Stroll Racing, which would replace RB as the worst name ever.
Strollovich, F1 team.
I mean, that's even more memorable than...
Yeah, it is. There's an identity there.
Yeah.
Just have his smoke show girlfriend be the logo, and there you go.
I don't know if that's the solution, but
Whatever. I'm allowed to have my one
What does Pat
misogynistic
say?
moment for the. Did he?
but did
Yeah, let's just
All
call it
right.
the did he of the week. Whenever we
Did he
see
of
a
the
result
week.
that we cannot believe, like let's say Lance Stroll wins a podium, we're just going to be like, and the did he of the week goes to Lance Stroll for winning third place in Monaco.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yes. All right. Do we have anything else to cover in this episode?
Unless somebody else
Spain?
has. Oh,
yes.
God.
We
Yeah.
almost forgot.
Probably
So
for the best.
Todd's
Another
ecstatic.
Sky Point moment. I'm not, though, because, and I said this
I'm
in the
just kidding.
Discord, I'm not, it's weird because everybody hates Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona for the racing, even though they fixed the chicane thing at the last turn. It still didn't really produce good racing. But it's now off the calendar. I don't know if they're still going to preseason test there. I think they should.
Yeah, they will.
They might. I don't know. I haven't seen anything on that yet. But they're now moving the Spain GP to Madrid, and it's going to be a street track. And according to people that know, it could produce good racing. So we'll see.
That's another
I'm so
2026 change, right?
I thought it was for this year. Am I
I
wrong?
thought it was this year as well. Maybe I misread it.
Formula One announced Spanish Grand Prix will be held in Madrid from 2026 to 2035.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Built
Okay.
around the world-class IFEMA Exhibition Center, 5.47 kilometers, subject to FIA homologation and final design speculation, will feature 20 corners, projected qualifying lap time of 1 minute 32 seconds. The
Williams did a sim, like they built the track in the sim already and showed a lap of it.
Oh,
it
really?
looks interesting. Yeah.
Okay. I think the biggest talking point was they're trying to say that 90% of people that go to the race will take public transportation to get there, which would be...
Well, that warms Sebastian Vettel's heart somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's possible for 90,000 people to commute to a race,
great,
is incredible in my opinion. Like, I mean,
it's automatically become one of my favorite races, and I really hope they make that happen.
Yeah,
I think that alone is worth its weight in gold.
I can't wait for Formula One management to try to take credit for that in their like Race to Zero campaign. Like, oh, we moved it to a street track so we could save carbon emissions from your commuting to a racetrack, and then include that in their
Are you
net
kidding me? They're
carbon
going to
zero
live
thing.
off that single stat for about a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like the most carbon neutral thing to do, is to put it on consumers, right? It's like, well, statistically, I think it's like 70 to 80% of like carbon pollution comes from like 6 big businesses or something, or 6 industries. And like the whole thing is like, oh, well, your individual carbon footprint is what's causing all this problem. So you should start walking instead of driving your car. You should start taking public transportation. You should
Don't get mad at me because we sell cars. It's you driving.
Yeah, exactly. Just because we have thousands on the lot for you to get a new one. Yeah, That's pretty crazy. I'm actually excited about that, though. I think, I mean, I am one of the weird, I would say, legacy F1 fans that really does like watching street circuits. I know it doesn't result in as fun of racing typically, but I think I saw something about the cars getting slightly smaller in the next few years too, which, you know,
is that part of the regs in 26?
I think there's like, I thought I saw something that was like a little bit, we'll have to look at it for the next episode, but I think Vegas actually has shifted my thinking more to being more open to street tracks too, right? There was so much action at that race, and when we looked at that map the first time, it was like, well, this is going to suck, you know, like
2 miles straight.
Yeah. And it turned out to be really cool, you know, like, I mean, maybe the track designers for the FIA or Formula One are actually, competent. It's starting to look that way.
Here's hoping.
Tilko was right. Tilko's designed most of the tracks in the last decade or so. I don't remember his last name, but anyway, I'm not really feeling one way or another about this. Barcelona wasn't a great track, did produce great racing. Vegas did produce a really entertaining race last year. Let's hope that keeps up. So maybe this will be another one. I, for one, don't want to see more street tracks, but I think that's just the way of things because they need to make each race bigger and better and
brasher than the other. Yep.
Yeah. So they're going to keep doing that, and we'll eventually have Silverstone, Monaco, and Coda as our only actual racetracks. They just don't produce classic racing moves in the sense. They can produce entertaining races. I think Baku is actually a pretty good race every year. And that has a crazy long straight. So
yeah,
maybe that's the way it's going to go, but I just hope that they keep preseason testing there, or at very least for my nerd video game self, that they keep it as an option to drive on in the F1 game, because it's like
DLC.
one of the... They better do something like that because it's super fun to drive, whether or not it produces great racing.
I feel obligated to say that F1 is committed to reaching net zero carbon by 2030, and AFIMA Madrid shares the vision to make the Spanish Grand Prix one of the most sustainable F1 events of the season. That was
so they're already taking credit.
It's already in there. Yeah, I hadn't scrolled.
Yeah,
I hadn't scrolled that far down in the article, but I just did, and yeah. I mean,
you
good to know they're on brand.
Props to them for if they are really doing that. I just hope it's true. To be honest, that's the biggest thing with all of these companies, having been a part of those conversations and then being a part of the lack of announcement to say that we stopped doing that 3 years ago in multiple times in my career. It's kind of I don't know, just be truthful. That's all I ask. It doesn't,
Seb will make it happen. It's one way or
Seb
another.
will make it happen.
I hope
Seb
so.
we trust.
I hope so. All right. Well, we're at an hour, so that's a pretty good stopping point, I think. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Steiner, I miss you.
Already, yes.
Come back, Gunter.
Somehow.
Baby, come back.
Yes.
Is he on Cameo? Can we buy him for 5 minutes at a time?
I know Zach Brown is, but I don't want him. I want Gunther.
We have one. G-Spot, as I like to call him.
Jeez.
It is obviously getting late, so I'm going to wrap that up. Wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up by saying, let everybody know.
Wrap it up, B.
Let everybody know how they can find you outside of the show.
You can find me on Instagram at Rodem13. Same on Blue Sky. Roheezy on Twitter. And because it's the preseason, you're not getting an OnlyFans name for me. You have to earn it, listener.
Nice.
Dadshoe.jpg on Instagram and Threads, dadshoe_jpg on Twitter. Maybe I'll have a Blue Sky or a Rumble or a Mastodon or a something. Grinder. Or an OnlyFans by season start. We'll see.
Cool. More ways to connect with Todd. Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. But did he?
You can find me at Nick Engvall on all the platforms. More importantly, Exhaust Notes FM everywhere. And make sure you hit the first link in the description to join the Discord and join the discourse in between the races.
I figured out Todd's OnlyFans name. It's But Did He, but But is spelled with 2 T's.
That implies things being inserted into me, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that at this time. We'll see. We'll see where the year goes.
End it right now, Nick. Whatever sponsorship we had, end it right now.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.